everyone, this is Karen.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm Shane.
Today we're looking at part 2 of the duck-billed platypus.
The impossible animal.
And the vocabulary words are dive.
Dive.
Great white sharks can dive to depths of 1,200 meters.
Electrical.
Electrical.
One way to produce electrical energy is to burn coal.
Signal.
Signal.
In 1977, a scientist received a powerful signal from space that has not been detected since.
Scoop.
Scoop.
Tom scooped up some rocks with his hand and threw them into the river.
Crush.
Crush.
To make wine the traditional way, you need to first crush the grapes with your feet.
Gross.
I guess you don't like wine.
But I like the duck-billed platypus.
Do you? Because they are really, really unique.
They're super cute, right?
Yes, they are.
But you wouldn't think that they're meat eaters, would you?
I guess I wouldn't.
Yeah,
You're right. But they are meat eaters.
Yeah, so they're carnivores, right? They eat meat, and they actually hunt at night.
Underwater.
Underwater. Wow, so they're nocturnal animals. They go underwater. But the interesting thing is,
they keep their eyes and their noses shut, right?
So if they go underwater and their eyes are closed, how do they see what they're trying to catch?
I think they can sense the electrical, what is it?
The electrical signals from...
That's right, from maybe like a worm underwater, a tasty worm or something.
Or like a shellfish.
And then they would just scoop it up with their bill.
Yeah, and they get all the mud and the rocks and everything. Then they bring that back to the shore. And then they'll use those rocks to crush things like the shellfish.
That's right.
So that they can eat the meat out of it.
Because they don't have teeth.
They don't have teeth, so they just swallow it down.
That's pretty cool.
Such an interesting animal.
I have never heard of any animals like that.
It's pretty cool. Let's learn more about the duck-billed platypus.
All right.
The duck-billed platypus, the impossible animal.
You might be surprised to learn that platypuses are meat eaters that hunt for their food underwater. They like to snack on worms, insects, and shellfish, and spend up to 12 hours a day on the hunt, mostly in rivers and wetlands.
Today's lesson is called The Duck-billed Platypus, the Impossible Animal, Part 2. Hello everyone, I am Jeff.
And I'm Mike. And we actually know that this title isn't really telling us the truth. It is a possible animal. The duck-billed platypus, the really weird animal,
It exists.
I think would be a little more accurate. But it does almost seem impossible, especially when we learn, not only does it look strange, you can see a picture of it there in your magazine, I'm sure. Not only does it look strange, but we learned yesterday that it actually has genes from all different types of animals mixed in, and this all happened 166 million years ago. It almost does seem like nature just decided to play a joke one day and said, I'm going to make this animal that totally breaks all the rules, but it's real.
Well, it's a unique animal.
It's very weird and special.
That followed its very own unique genetic path to where it is right now.
In one little corner of the world.
In one little corner of the world. Now, you might be surprised to learn that platypuses are meat eaters.
Really?
That hunt for their food underwater.
Ducks use that kind of mouth to eat weeds and grass and stuff. They don't hunt with them.
Not the duck-billed platypus. They like to snack on worms, insects, and shellfish, and spend up to 12 hours a day on the hunt, mostly in rivers and wetlands. So they hunt most of the time.
They do. They're busy little animals, and of course they have to probably eat a lot of those little worms, insects, shellfish, animals they might find in rivers, lakes, ponds, wetlands, places like that. So they spend most of their time in water. They aren't in the ocean, right? They're in fresh water, rivers and wetlands, not in seas and oceans, giving us an idea of, what they eat, where they live, their habitat, and their environment. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back with more about the duck-billed platypus.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们在第一天的课文读到，鸭嘴兽和哺乳动物、爬行动物还有鸟类都有共同的基因。这种生物就好像被上帝开一个玩笑，东凑凑西凑凑，拿不同动物的身体部位把它拼凑出来。好，在今天的课程当中，我们要来了解这种生物的生活习性。鸭嘴兽呢是在水下觅食的那种肉食性动物，它们喜欢吃虫啊，或者像甲壳类水生动物来当零食。那么每天猎食的时间可以长达12个小时，而主要的猎食区域在河里面或是在湿地。好，补充一下 ，wetland 或是念作 wetland， 它就是指湿地、沼泽地。那刚刚麦克老师有提到 habitat 这个字，则是指栖息地，它是拼作 habitat，habitat 可以用来表达动植物的栖息地或是产地。这句话课文中
The duck-billed platypus, the impossible animal.
Platypuses do their hunting at night. They dive under the water for a minute or two at a time, paddling with their front feet and steering with their back feet and tail while searching for food. Strangely, during the entire time they are underwater, their eyes, ears, and noses are shut tight. So how do they find their food?
Okay, before the break, we learned that platypuses hunt. They hunt a lot. They hunt like 12 hours a day. But get this, platypuses do their hunting at night. They are nocturnal.
Interesting. So they're hunting 12 hours a day, but most of that is actually in the dark, as you say, at night. So how do they do this? How do they hunt for those worms and insects and shellfish in rivers and wetlands? They dive under the water for a minute or two at a time, paddling with their front feet and steering with their back feet and tail while searching for food. Okay, well, that sounds kind of like it would make sense if you look at their bodies. They have those feet for paddling, and then the back legs and the tail, like an otter, do some of the steering, or like a beaver, do some of the steering. And of course, if they're eating shellfish and things like that, they will definitely have to dive. What is it to dive? To dive, in the case of a platypus, is basically to go down in the water. So you're swimming in the water, you see something interesting at the bottom of the lake or the river, and then you dive down to get it. You could do that if you're swimming, or with people or certain types of birds or ducks, they might also be outside of the water and go head first down into the water. But if you're in the water and you're just moving downwards, you're diving as well, like a shark. Great white sharks can dive to depths of 1,200 meters below the surface of the water.
Wow. They can swim really deep under the water there.
But
amazing.
Platypuses don't worry about that.
Anyways, strangely, during the entire time they are underwater, their eyes, ears, and noses are shut tight.
Huh?
Apparently the platypuses don't use any of their senses in order to hunt. Yes, they shut their eyes, they shut their ears, and they shut their noses. They don't smell, they don't hear, they don't see. So,
how do they find their food?
So how do they find their food? That is the question, and we'll answer that question right after a break.
Radar?
We'll see you after that, mates.
刚刚说鸭嘴兽每天会花长达12个小时来猎食，那它们都是在晚上狩猎，是夜行性动物。Jeff 老师用到 nocturnal 这个字 Nocturnal。Nocturnal 是形容夜间的、夜间活动的，我们可以用 nocturnal animals 来表达夜行性动物。那么课文接着写到说，鸭嘴兽在觅食的时候呢，它潜入水一次呢可以长达这个1-2分钟。那它们是用前脚来划水，然后用后脚跟尾巴来转向。不过有一件事情很奇怪，它们在水里面会全程闭眼睛，然后耳朵跟鼻子也会紧闭。那要怎么找食物呢？好，我们先来看看单字 dive。dive 它表示俯冲或是急速的下潜，也有潜水、跳水的意思。那么要潜入水中的时候呢，通常会头先朝下嘛。Mike 老师用到 head first 这个字 ，headfirst，head first 这个副词就可以表达头朝下地，移动时头先下。好，那这边还有4个重点哦。第一个，at a time 表示一次、每次，我们常常会用数量词加上 at a time 来表达每次有多少个，像是 I can only focus on one thing at a time， 我一次只能专注在一件事情上，我没有办法一心多用。第二个重点是要讲分词构句的用法。以对等连接词 and 去连接2个主词相同的子句时，我们可以省略 and， 再省略其中一句的主词，然后把那一句的动词就改成分词形式。如果动词是主动，就用现在分词 VING， 被动就用过去分词 PP。例如 He sat there waiting for the rain to stop。他坐在那里等待雨停。那么这边的 waiting for the rain to stop 就是分词构句。这个分词 waiting 我们就是由 and he waited 简化而来的。第3个重点 while 在这边呢是指在什么时跟什么什么同时。那么当 while 所引导的副词子句跟主要子句的主词相同时，可以省略。也就是说 while 前后子句主词一样的话，你就可以把 while 后面那个主词省掉，然后再把主动动词改成 VING 的形式。以句型来看，主词加动词 while 主词加动词可以简化成主词加动词 while 动词 ing。例如 Some people listen to music while they study 可以简化成 Some people listen to music while studying 有些人在念书的时候听音乐。第4个重点 search for 可以表达寻求、搜寻。那我们文中用到 on the hunt也有寻找、搜寻的意思，我们常常用 be on the hunt for 加名词来表示。那我们分别来造个例句。Scientists are searching for a cure for the disease. 科学家正在寻找这种疾病的治疗方法。She's on the hunt for a new pair of boots. 她正在找一双新的靴子。好，那我们接着回到课文中。
The duck-billed platypus, the impossible animal.
The answer lies in the platypus's bill, which can sense tiny electrical signals set off by the movements of other living creatures. Once the platypus senses a tasty worm or insect, it scoops it up in its bill along with the surrounding mud and small stones and heads back to the surface. There, it uses the stones to crush the food in its mouth before swallowing it because platypuses don't have teeth. One might say this strange little animal is living proof that truth is stranger than fiction.
All right, let's say I'm hunting in the water. I would generally keep my eyes open so that I can see.
Sure.
And let's say I could somehow smell in the water.
Like sharks do. Sharks smell.
I would keep my nose open.
Sure.
Same thing goes with the ears. I would want to hear. The platypus does none of these things. The platypus closes its eyes, nose, and ears when hunting.
Well,
so how does it find prey? The answer lies in the platypus's bill.
Oh, that big duck-shaped mouth type thing that it has.
The thing that goes quack on a duck.
Right. Well, I guess it makes sense. It's hunting at night, so the eyes wouldn't work very well, especially in a river. And of course, it's an air-breathing animal, so it has to close its nose and not breathe in water. So yeah, the bill, that big mouth part, that's how it hunts. How exactly? The answer lies in the platypus's bill, which can sense tiny many electrical signals set off by the movements of other living creatures. That is absolutely incredible. I think sharks have something similar. They have sensors down their whole body which can pick up the movement of animals far away, so it doesn't have to see them or smell them. But still, electrical signals that it can sense. Humans, we don't have any kind of ability like this.
We can't really sense electrical signals. Now here, electrical means of or having to do with electricity. Zzz, zzz, zzz. But yes, we use electricity on a daily basis. When you plug your phone into the wall to charge your battery, you're using electricity. You've got a device, it's an electrical device, and it charges your phone with electricity. And yes, animals do let off electrical signals, and apparently the duck-billed platypus is able to pick up on them. How cool is that? For example, one way to produce electrical energy is to burn coal. It's not a clean way of making electricity, but you can make electrical energy in that way. Anyway, let's move on. The next vocabulary word is the word signal.
That's right. What is a signal? Basically, a signal is some kind of energy that carries data or information. When we think of signals, the easiest thing to think of is how your cell phone works or how a radio works. There are those radio waves coming around. There are the cell phone towers sending signals, or Wi-Fi or internet, things like that. And you have some machine that can turn that energy in the air into some kind of information, into the noise coming from a radio, into the call or the email that comes to your phone or something like that. So it's that energy out there that's carrying data or information of some kind. For example, in 1977, a scientist received a powerful signal from space that has not been detected since. Wow, what was that? Could have been aliens, or it could have just been a star letting off energy in some kind of unusual way.
Or it could have just been an anomaly.
Or a space-traveling duck-billed platypus.
No, it wasn't.
Not likely.
No, it wasn't.
It could have
That would
been.
actually be impossible.
Okay,
once the platypus senses a tasty worm or insect, not in space, it scoops it up in its bill along with the surrounding mud and small stones and heads back to the surface. By the way, to scoop is to pick something up with a kind of a circular spoon-like entity. So here, that bill, it might have a bit of a circular surface on it, and it can scoop up this stuff, pick it up almost like a shovel, and then take it back to the surface. For example, Tom scooped up some rocks with his hand and threw them into the river. He turned his hand into something that kind of looks like a bowl or a spoon, picked those up, and then threw them into the river. Now, what does it do once it gets to the shore there?
Well, remember, it's picked up the insect or the shellfish or whatever along with some stones from the bottom of that river. And there, up at the surface, up at the top of the water, where of course it can breathe again, there it uses the stones to crush the food in its mouth before swallowing it, because platypuses don't have teeth. And when you crush something, basically you put a lot of pressure on it, you smash it, you pound it from some larger shape into smaller and smaller and smaller shapes. We use our teeth to crush especially hard foods. If you put nuts into your mouth, you don't bite them and cut them in half with the front part of your teeth. You put them into the back with those big teeth and you smash them in between into small pieces. That is what it is to crush something. Here's another thing we might crush, but with our feet. To make wine the traditional way, you need to first crush the grapes with your feet, or with a grape press, a machine that pushes down on them and crushes them into small, tiny pieces.
There you have it.
Getting the juice out.
Anyways,
Yes.
let's go ahead and wrap up our article. One might say this strange little animal is living proof that truth is stranger than fiction. I couldn't have possibly said it better myself. All right, folks, it's time to ask the what do you think question. Mike, which fact or facts about platypuses did you find the most surprising?
Well, I still think that it's surprising that the platypus can also be poisonous. We didn't really get into that. But yeah, the males have these little spurs, these little pointy things on their back legs, I believe, that are apparently very poisonous to human beings. I mean, I don't know why that would be. What do they use them for? Well, we'll have to leave that for another day. But for an animal full of surprises, it's pretty easy to find a surprising fact because a platypus is basically just one surprising fact after another in a 50-centimeter package.
I agree. All right, folks, it's time for us to say bye-bye. We'll see you next time.
鸭嘴兽在水里觅食的时候，它会把眼睛、鼻子还有耳朵都紧闭。那要怎么找到猎物呢？答案就在于它们的嘴。鸭嘴兽的嘴呢，可以感觉到其他生物移动时所产生的微小电讯。那么一旦侦测到美味的虫子，它就会把虫子连同周围的泥土和小石头一起用它的鸭嘴把它咬起来，然后再回到水面上。那由于鸭嘴兽它是没有牙齿的，它们就会待在岸上，然后用嘴里的那些小石头来压碎食物，然后再吞下去。好，刚刚 Jeff 老师用到 prey 这个字来表达猎物，这个字是拼作 P-R-E-Y。Prey 可以指猎物或者是被捕食的对象。那我们最后来看4个单字 ，electrical 它是形容电的，跟电有关的。signal 表示信号、暗号。单字例句写到1977年，有科学家侦测到来自外太空一个很强的讯号，老师们就说有可能是外星人哎。好，那么 alien 就可以指外星人。老师还有用到 anomaly 这个字 ，A-N-O-M-A-L-Y anomaly 可以表达异常、反常。好，下一个单字 scoop 表示挖出或是用勺子把它舀出，那这个字当名词其实就可以指勺子啦。Jeff 老师在解释单字时有提到说，你要挖出东西时就会使用形状像汤匙的那种实存物体，这时候老师用到 entity 这个字 E-N-T-I-T-Y 这个字表示实体、实存物。好，那我们再来看 crush 当动词可以表达压扁、压碎。那有2个意思稍微有点相近的动词是 smash S-M-A-S-H smash 可以表达打碎、打破、撞击，还有 pound 棒的那个字 P-O-U-N-D pound 当动词也可以表达猛击、连续的用力捶打。好了，那么以上是今天的讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
There are over 700 different species of eucalyptus trees. These trees make up nearly 3/4 of the forests in Australia. Koalas live in eucalyptus trees and only eat eucalyptus leaves. Eucalyptus trees are both good and bad for forest fires in Australia. They can grow back in a few months after the fires go out. The oil inside of them makes it easier for them to catch on fire, though. Some countries have banned eucalyptus from growing to prevent fires. Eucalyptus wood is often called gumnut. The oil is used in many beauty products and some natural medicines. Some of the things that eucalyptus helps with are coughs and joint pain. It's also used in perfumes because it has a particular smell. Since the various types of eucalyptus trees grow all over the world, the oil has been used by people for thousands of years. Let's go climb a eucalyptus tree and see the view from up there when traveling to Australia.
Here is more information.
Special. Anna got a special gift on her birthday. Evergreen. Pines are evergreen trees. Treatment. The best treatments for a cold are to rest and drink more water. Haze. The mountains were surrounded by the haze. Petal. This flower has many petals. Poisonous. The poisonous snake is very dangerous. Insect. Ants, butterflies, and flies are all insects. Surface. The leaves floated on the surface of the water. Toxin. Toxins in the water made people sick. Soil. The soil is wet after the rain. Thank you for watching today. We hope to see you again next time.
See you next time!